Hi guys, Hassan Khan here again, talking more about the science of success and achievement. So today I want to follow up on my last video, where I spoke about whether or not it's better to be feared or loved, and how the best way to gain influence is to combine warmth and strength, as difficult as this is to do. Now I want to speak specifically about how we can be more memorable and likable, and how we can project warmth in the things that we do and say, that extension of being loved. Now before I get into how to do this, I want to start off by talking about first impressions, about the science of first impressions, and what we see and what we look for when we meet someone for the first time. Now when we first meet somebody, what's interesting is that we decide if we like them, if we trust them, and if we want to get to know them better within the first 30 seconds of meeting them. And 90% of the time our opinions don't change. We look at this person and everything about them through the lens of this initial impression. Everything gets filtered through this lens. Now part of this is because when faced with the choice between changing our mind and proving that we don't need to, we look for evidence to always prove that our judgments are correct. Now, is it possible to overcome a bad first impression? Well, it is. Over the course of several interactions, you can change somebody's opinion and mind about you, a person's initial perception of you. But you'll have to work much harder than if you came across as likable from the start, or if you knew what to do to make a stronger and more memorable first impression. You see, you never get a second chance to make a great first impression. Within just a few seconds, with just a simple glance, people have already judged you, unconsciously. Your social and economic standing, how educated you are, and even how successful you are. Within that interaction, they've also decided your levels of intelligence, how trustworthy you are, how competent you are, how friendly you are, how confident you are. And although these evaluations happen in an instant, they can last for years. First impressions are often indelible and that powerful. And if you make a favorable first impression when meeting someone, the rest of your relationship will be colored by it, thereby loading the dice in your favor in your life. You tip the scales towards you. Think about how this plays out at work or at job interviews. On the other hand, a bad and unfavorable first impression can sometimes be insurmountable, often deciding the trajectory of a relationship, even if the rest of that interaction is fantastic. So how you speak, what you're doing and projecting when you meet someone, how calm and confident you are, all of these things matter and are really important. Now, good lawyers know how important first impressions are, and they spend hours prepping their clients for that first moment when they're introduced to a jury. This is why, even if you're really late to a meeting, or if you're meeting someone for the first time, it's worth taking a little bit of time, even if it's just 10 seconds, to get back into the right frame of mind and body language. Otherwise, you risk giving off a very uncharismatic first impression. Now let me tell you about a study that was done some years ago by two Harvard psychologists, Nalini Ambady and Robert Rosenthal. Now they wanted to test the power of first impressions and the power of body language. Now they did this by recording and videoing 13 university professors as they were teaching and delivering their lectures to students. They cut these tapes down to several 10-second thin slices for each teacher, and they got rid of the sound in these videos. They then brought in a panel of judges from the outside who didn't know the teachers and hadn't ever been taught by any of them. And they gave them the instructions that using only 30 seconds of these silent videos, we want you to rate these teachers on 15 dimensions and traits. Things such as confidence, competence, likability, honesty. When the results were in, the teachers compared these ratings to the ratings that the teachers had actually received from students who'd actually taken their classes. Now what they wanted to do was they wanted to see how differently the two groups perceived them. Now what was astounding was that the ratings given by both the students and the random participants were nearly identical. The researchers then cut the silent videos down to just 6 seconds, and there was no real difference again. The ratings given by a new group of judges were only 7% less accurate. So it didn't matter how much these professors had spent preparing, how much they knew their content, how many contact hours they had provided to their students. That was all essentially irrelevant. What mattered was that initial first impression. and not what they were saying or teaching, but how they were saying it. This experiment suggested that when it came to the impressions these teachers made on people, their body language was by far the most important and significant factor. Their words barely mattered. The findings suggest and show that our intuitive judgments are unexpectedly accurate, and also that we communicate, unwittingly, a great deal of information about ourselves with our bodies, with what they're doing. Now, Albert Morabian developed a communication model years ago, and he demonstrated that only 7% of what we communicate consists of the literal content of the message. The use of one's voice, such as tone, intonation, and volume, take up 38%, and as much as 55% of our communication consists of body language. This model is still much used today. Our bodies and our non-verbals have a huge effect on other people, and we make inferences and sweeping judgments from body language. And those judgments can predict a lot of really meaningful things, like who we want to be friends with, who we hire or promote, or even who we ask out on a date. The science shows us what is the most powerful when it comes to using body language, and what we should be doing with our bodies to be memorable and likable. How to use nonverbal cues, what we should do with our eyes and hands, how we can listen and communicate with purpose and conviction, how to take up space, how to spark memorable conversations. Let me focus on one area today. Firstly, let me ask you, how many of you watch TED Talks? And how many of you have ever wondered why some TED Talks are so popular and why others aren't? Is it because of the content? Is it because of the profile of the speakers? Is it because of an interesting hook? What if I told you that the reason some TED Talks are so popular, the reason some go viral and others don't, could be attributed to one thing. And that one thing is related to body language. And that is hand gestures and movements of the speakers, the hand movements of the speakers. This sounds ridiculous, right? Well, a huge experiment was conducted a few years ago. Researchers examined exactly this. What the difference was between, or the reason for, a TED Talk success versus ones that weren't so successful. And the researchers found one pattern: the use of hand gestures. Specifically, on average, what they found was that the most popular TED Talkers use an average of 465 hand gestures in 18 minutes. And the least popular TED Talkers use an average of 272 hand gestures. Almost half. What's going on here, and why is this the case? Well, let me break it down for you. What's the first thing you do when you meet someone? You might glance at and make eye contact with them briefly, but unconsciously, the first major thing we do is we scan their hands, or what they're doing with their hands. And this tells us whether we can trust that person or not, in an instant. It goes back to our caveman days, and us finding out or working out whether a person was friend or foe. Are they carrying something to hurt us, like a stone or a spear? Or are their hands opening and welcoming? You see, if you can't see somebody's hands, you're not able to feel safe. You can't feel safe because you're unsure about what that person's intentions might be. You should never give a presentation or meet somebody for the first time and have your hands in your pockets. Your pockets will kill your connection with other people. And you should remember this every time your hands drift down towards and into your pockets. When we use our hands, when we're open and welcoming with our hands, when we're showing our intention with our hands, we make other people comfortable. The studies have also shown that job candidates who use more hand gestures in their interviews are more likely to get hired by significant amounts. Using our hands means that when we're presenting, like these TED Talkers, we're showing that we know our message so well, that we know what we want to say so well, that we're authentic, honest, knowledgeable. We're not pretending or being disingenuous. The words also become an extension of what we're saying. Now, the brain gives 12.5 times more weight to hand gestures. 12.5 times more weight. That's phenomenal. So practice how you meet people, what you're doing with your hands, how you use your hands, what your bodies are saying. This is the first step in establishing warmth and trust, and you'll become so much memorable and likable because of it. People won't forget you, and they'll really like you. I'm going to cover more of how we can use our bodies to be more memorable, and how to project warmth and strength in some of my next few videos. So stay tuned, comment, like and subscribe, and please share the science with your friends. I look forward to seeing you next time.